Welcome back. This is Jeff Byers, and this is ANI150 Module 2. And you just completed the entire assignment. You've got your render completed, and you're ready to turn stuff in. So basically this video will be placed here that you're watching right now. And you should find it under Turn In Instructions, obviously. But make sure your first and last name is on every file. That's the biggest thing right now. Make sure you name everything exactly the way I want you to name them. So when you're doing the folder structure, we'll go through that, and that will help that'll help me manage your work. Okay. So the first thing is we need to look under Deliverables. The student will turn in a completed texture low poly food can model as an MB, FBX, and OBJ file. So that's basically the scene file that you were working on when you rendered your scene. So let's take a look at what that looks like. Okay? So this is what your rendered scene should look like. Okay? When you look at the example, the instructor example I've had at the beginning of the page and at the very bottom of the page, that's what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for anything else. I'm not looking for a single can. I want to see your entire scene, so I need you to turn that in. Okay, so your entire scene will be an OBJ FBX. So basically, what we're going to do is we're going to export all. Okay, not export selection, export all. Now, the modeling, the module 1 was export selection, but we're going to export all. Okay, because I want to have the whole entire scene. So the first one is going to be the MB file. Okay, so we can just go to File, Save Scene As, and save that scene. Okay, I would like you to put your first and last name on it and Module 1. Okay, your first and last name on it and Module 1. So something like this. As an example, I'll use my name, and this will be Module 2, because this is Module 2. Alright, so this is your MB file. So your first, your last name, underscore module, underscore 2. I might have said 1, I meant to say 2. Module 2. Okay, so go ahead and save as. Okay, and what I'm going to do is, just to keep things pretty simple for me, and you might want to do the same thing for you, so you don't have to try to find it. You can put it on your desktop. I'm just going to put it on my desktop so I can find everything. Okay, I'm going to save as. Now that's going to be my Module 2 MB file. Now I need to get the FBX file. So export all, and let's find FBX. FBX export. Export all. There we go. And you can see that from the last time I saved FBX, everything is selected and set up the way I need it. And all I need to do now is go in here, put my first name, my last name, underscore, module, underscore 02, and put it on the desktop. Okay, let's go ahead and do that. Export all. And that might take a while, I don't know. It depends on how slow your computer is, and try not to go click on stuff while you're saving work. And sometimes it tells you under the Mel scripting line right here. So just let it run if it needs to run, and if you interrupt it, it might crash. So beware of that. So File, Export All, one more, and we've got an OBJ. OBJ. There we go. OBJ export. Now what this is going to do, it's very interesting. The OBJ export will find all your materials and then export your materials as well. This will take the longest time. I usually do this the last one. And this will export all the maps that you have in your scene. All of them. All of your maps will be exported with this file. Or it should be. Okay, so here we go. Export all. And we want it to go to the desktop again. Okay, and we want to call this Jeff. Well, your first name, last name, ANI150 underscore module 02. All right, and export all. Okay, so that's our first part. So if I minimize this, you can see that we've got this part completed. So we have exported MB, FBX, and OBJ. Okay, the next thing is the student will turn in all textures used on the low poly model, the food can model, as a PNG, JPEG. PNG or JPEG format. I prefer JPEG, but if you did it as a PNG, you're good to go. Okay, so all textures. Alright, so what does that mean? Alright, so let's go ahead and go to that, and let's see what I've got up here. Okay, so I've got all my files. Okay, now we're going to go in and create the folder so I can start putting these files in the folders. Okay, so I've got my MB file, I've got my FBX file, I've got my OBJ, and I've got my MTL files. Okay, so you got 4. Alright, so I'm going to create my folder, my file folder set, just like was described online. Okay, so I'm going to follow that exactly. Folder structure, so first, last, ANI150 _ module _ 2. Okay, and we need to create a scenes folder, a source images subfolder, and a render subfolder. Okay, so here's my first folder, my main folder. Okay, you can see I got my first name, last name, ANI150 _ module _ 02. I double click on that. I've got my render subfolder, nothing in it yet, my scenes folder, nothing in there yet, and my source images folder. And that's where my textures go. So your render goes here, your scenes go here, and your source images go here. So let's go ahead, and while we're going through it, we'll go ahead and put things in their folders. So I've got my subfolder. So if you don't know how to do subfolder, if you don't know how to create a folder, you right click over the desktop and you go to new folder, and then you can rename it. Okay, and then when you click on, when you rename the new folder, the main folder, then you can go in and create your subfolders by going to new and folder, and you can rename those. Okay, to rename something, you can right click over it and rename it. Okay, so I've got my scenes in here. Okay, so I'm going to copy those and paste those in the scenes folder. So there are I've got my first deliverable completed. Okay, alright, so let's go to the next deliverable, which is your textures. So where do I find all the textures that I created? Well, if you set your project and you created a project, you have all the folders all ready to go. So I'm going to go to my documents, I'm going to go to Maya, I'm going to go to projects. Now I don't know where you put your project. Okay, I showed you how to do this in module 1 in the very first video, so rewatch that if you have some problems and get that corrected. And so I've got my folder, I know where my textures are, they're in source images, so I open that up and you can see all my textures. Okay, I've got my original dog label that I used. Okay, but I don't really need that. The pieces that I need, that we created, and I've got to go to view to get this sorted a little bit better. I'm going to go to type. Okay, alright, so I don't need your HDRI image. I really don't. If you want to include it, that would be fine. It's not gonna cause any problems. It's not very big, unless you did that crazy 16K one. We did the 2K, so I'm gonna include that. I want that one if it's not too big, and then I'm gonna hold down the control key, and start selecting the ones that I need. So I need to have the UV, the food can, UDIM, UV, U1, UV, V1. So you got those two. So I need those. So I'm going to copy and paste those. Copy. And go into my folder. And I'm going to go into source images and paste those. Just like that. So I got those 3. Okay. Alright, the next thing is I need to get all my materials. So I've got my base materials here. Okay, so I'm going to select all of these. So I'm going to start right here, and I'm going to hold the control key or the shift key down and click on all of these. So what it is I've got that granite tabletop that I did. I've got the label that I've for the soup can, and I've got the steel texture of the soup can. So there's not a whole lot here. When we get farther along, you're going to have a ton of these, and you have to kind of manage yourself a little bit better. So this time it's not too bad. So let's go ahead and copy those. Okay. And let's go back into my source images, so you can see that I'm in my folder here that I'm going to turn in. Source images, I'm going to paste those. Okay, I'm done. So what are these? Here's the HDR image that we used for the background. Here is the food can. I'm going to double click on that. The food can of the output when I was in the UV editor, and you saw me in the video, you saw me actually take that and do a snapshot. That's what that is. That's the raw, that is called the raw UV. Okay, and I need to have that so I can see how you packed, right? If I don't see these, I'll be taking points off. Okay, so go back and watch the video and create the UVs that I need. Okay, right? So I'm going to close those. That helps me understand how you packed your scene. Did you do it like the video? Did you go on your own and pack it? I want to take a look. Okay, and then I've got all the texture maps that you created from Substance Painter. That's what I need. Okay, so I've got Substance Painter textures for the label, and I've got texture maps for the metal part of the lid, right? So you can see those textures, and I have all the textures for the table. Alright, so that is completed. Okay, so now we've got all that done. Alright, so where are we at now with our deliverables? So let's go take a look. And deliverables, we've got this one completed. We've got this one completed, which is the hard one. The textures, all the textures completed. And then now I've got to completely, I gotta turn in my render. Well, we've already done that in part 5, I believe. I think that's part 5. Maybe it's part 6. Part 5 rendering. So watch that again if you do not have that deliverable. And I've already got it finished, so I'm going to go ahead and minimize that, and I'm going to go into my folder, Documents, Maya, Projects, and then my folder that I created my project in, my assignment, and go to Images. You can see I've got quite a few in here. I got a test. I've got the one that I'm going to turn in is my HD 1080. So this is what it looks like. Okay. If you want to, you can go into Photoshop and manipulate this. And one last thing, before you turn stuff in, it's really important that you manipulate it in Photoshop. Let me give you some tips on that to help with making it look better. Okay. So some of you know what I'm talking about. Some of you don't have any idea. Maybe you're new to Photoshop. I hope not. But if you are, this might help you. So I'm going to go ahead and drag and drop it into a dark area or a black area there, and that'll pop up. And I can go to Image and Adjustments, and you have all of these adjustments. Now, again, you've got to be confident in how to use these. I'm not going to take you through how to use these. There are tutorials online, but this is what you'll have to do, adjustments. Okay, so I go to highlights and shadows quite often, but I also color balance my scene a little bit first, and that's basically just kind of tweaking out your levels, okay, and getting the right tone, and sometimes you don't have to do much, right? Sometimes you don't have to do much to get your scene looking right. It doesn't take much at all, depending on how well you did. And so I might want to bring up the yellows a little bit, just kind of have it pop a little bit more, because there's some yellows in here. Be careful not to go too far, because if you go too far, it looks terrible. I'm talking about just little tweaks, and then you can go and click the preview on and off, and you can see that kind of pops more, right? It just pops a little bit more. Again, if it looks too green, I mean, you have to be really careful. Okay? And some of you might have issues with, I mean, I've had some students tell me that they have color blindness, you know, and this is going to be tough to do when you're trying to do color correction with color blindness. Okay, so you know, if you have things like that going on and you're not even sure, you may want to look at, like, if you see this and it doesn't look yellow to you, then you might be suffering from some color blindness, and you need to get that taken care of and check it out. And there's some tests online that you can take and to see if you're, so there's a lot of people that have a little bit of color blindness that can go through life just perfectly fine. But if you have a severe case, it could be an issue. So just watch for that. So when you're done, click OK. And one of the other spots I like to go to is levels. How dark is it? Does it look dark? So I go into levels and just kind of brighten it up a little bit. Again, you don't want to lose your contrast because that looks terrible. So what I do is I just kind of turn up the contrast a little bit and just kind of work my way around until I find a good balance. Okay, the best way to look at this is that you want to brighten your image up, but you don't want to have the bright parts so bright that they are like perfectly white. So you have to be super careful. This is where I was before, and this is where I am now. You can see it pops better. Okay, so I like that. That's good. Alright, so then we go into image adjustments, and then the last, you know, and there's a lot of areas that you can go. You can go into vibrance and turn up vibrance and saturation, and I've seen people go too far with this too as well. Be very careful. If you go too saturated, this looks weird. It looks just you know, fake. You know, it doesn't look real anymore. It looks just fake, and you're trying too hard. It's basically having a little bit is fine. I don't have a problem with that, right? We don't want to desaturate it, obviously. Just add a little bit to it. A little bit goes a long ways, right? Okay, so add a little bit. That pops a little bit more. And then adjustments. Again, I'm just taking you through really quick ways. Color balance, black and white. Another one is the shadows, right? Okay. And again, if you don't see that, you can click on show more options right there. Show more options. This is what I'm seeing. And just kind of play around with this a little bit to see what happens if you do. And again, it's already bright, right? So you got to be super careful not to go to overextend it. And the tonalities, you know, be careful with that. We still want to see shadows. Okay, and we're just trying to enhance, not distract, right? We're trying to enhance, not distract the audience with our image. Okay, so hopefully that will help. You know, just kind of play around, go back and forth. You can see if I go too far, it gets really bad. Okay, all right. So I'm just kind of bringing a little bit in there and just kind of look at the preview, what I had before and what I have now. Okay, okay. I have to see the whole thing. I'm going to pull this away and turn it off and on so you guys can see it. Okay, so you can see the preview. This is what it was before, and this is with it on. It's amazing. Look at the difference in the shadows. And you can pause. Now this particular image, the shadows and highlights, this is what I came up with. Okay, it may be different for your image. Okay, alright, so I'm going to keep it. I like it. So this is my final piece, and you want to save that out as a JPEG, or, you know, probably two different ways. Maybe uncompressed Targa or PNG first, and then a compressed JPEG, so you can come back to it. So I'm going to do that as a PNG, and I'm going to say something at the end here, like modified or tweaked or something like that. Okay, I need to spell that right. Alright, modified. Alright, so modified, and that is that. I'm going to go ahead and select that, highlight that, Control C. You see why I did that. And then that's PNG, so that's uncompressed. And then I'm going to do what I need is a JPEG. Okay, and that says modified, so that's good. Save, and there we go. And so that's been photoshopped, and we can see the differences here. Let me close that a minute. Between what I had when I straight out of Maya, and then let's see if it lets me do a side by side. Where did I put that modified one? Right here, modified. There we go. So we can get side by side here for. Okay, so here's the side by side. Alright, so we've got the original straight out of Maya, and then we've got the manipulated, completed, modified one out of Photoshop. And you can see the differences in brightness, contrast, and color. So that's what I'm looking for. You need to do that so you can give your presentation the best light to focus on, have it under the best light possible. And the way to do that is that you can't get that out of the render. You have to get it out of Photoshop or another program like Photoshop that can give you a little more contrast, a little more light, just pop. It just needs to pop out more. So that's what Photoshop can do. All right, so now we've got the that render done. So when you're completed with that, go back into my folder system real quick here, and now I've got the modified one. And let's go ahead and copy that, and I'm going to paste it into my renders folder. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and open that up, double check, and there it is. There's my finished piece. Okay, make sure you look at it and it looks very close, and that you composed it the same way I did, and try to get it, try to match this as closely as possible, because I'm going to grade you so I can see the front, the back, and the top. Okay, and I want it done in a professional manner. I want the background in there. I want the tabletop in there. You can watch the video over and over again until you get it right. All right. Congratulations, if you made it this far. You're completely done. You have all your folders filled up. Double check everything, okay, before you send it out to me. Completely done. Great, fantastic. Next thing you need to do is you need to zip it. Right click over the folder and go to send to compressed. Shouldn't take long. Let's take a look. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the folder and see what the properties are. And the properties are 47.8 megabytes. That's very doable, and it shouldn't take long to upload. Okay, so you'll take this zip folder, not this one. You'll copy this zip. You copy this folder here for safekeeping on your hard drive. Okay, and then you'll take this folder and you'll upload it into Module 2 in Canvas. And at the very top of Module 2 is the same one you've actually been learning and watching the videos in. Is that same module that you'll see something that looks like upload or submit or something like that. You'll have a button. Click on that, upload that zip folder you just created, and you're completed. Congratulations, you're done in Module 2. And I will see you in Module 3 where we actually start the dagger. It's going to be a lot of fun, and you're going to learn a lot. I'll see you then.